For the year 2020, I'm making a video review for every new movie I watch, whether in theaters or at home, and on August 21st, I watched Amadeus. Welcome to my year in movies. This is Talking to Myself. Ooh, look who joined the 20th century and finally watched that film everyone else has seen in their music history class. Me. If you are like me and you haven't seen Amadeus, Amadeus is about the life of composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, but told through the perspective of his rival Salieri, a man who may have in fact killed Mozart. It's very proto-Hamilton, to use a modern reference. But this film was directed by Milos Forman. It came out in 1984. It is based on the stage play by Peter Shaffer, which incidentally starred Tim Curry and Ian McKellen, I believe. I'll put a picture up here and correct me if I'm wrong. So this film kind of tells the very short story of Mozart's life, but through Salieri. And it's Salieri's obsession with Mozart that gradually becomes his undoing, and how his obsession with Mozart corrupts him as a person. I will say, as I started watching this, I felt like the framing device was dumb. Like, oh, Signore Salieri, did you in fact kill Mozart? Well, it all started when my arch nemesis was 3 years old. I get it, we have to explain how Salieri came to despise Mozart, who came to hate Mozart. We do have to go back. I get that, and there's no neat way to do that. And it does kind of help. I don't know, I can see the use of it, and it's definitely done better than in other stories with a framing device. I just think that framing devices in general are very hard to pull off. I don't know. The whole framing device is redeemed by the awkward facial expressions of the priest who has come to hear Salieri's confession of him just like, bro, I didn't need to know this much. What do you stop? And it does show Salieri's characterization, but his characterization is made impeccably clear from F. Murray Abraham's expressions. F. Murray Abraham is so good in this movie. He earned his Oscar thoroughly. This movie also cleaned house at the Oscars, but anyway, his facial expressions are a riot. Just seeing his general excitement for Mozart completely crushed in an instant, and how his facial expressions are constantly, revealing this deeper plan. There's a scene between Salieri and Mozart's wife, Constanze, called Stanzi as well. Constanze was like my age, late teens, early 20s, and she, so the situation at hand is Mozart has the chance to be considered to be a, instructor. He needs to present his music for consideration, and he doesn't want to do that. Stanzi takes his art and his music to Salieri without Mozart knowing in order to submit his work, so he's in the running to get this job and earn the money. Salieri's whole thing was he prayed to God fervently that, he would give God everything, his chastity, his virtue, just everything, if God would make him a brilliant musician. And when Salieri meets Mozart, and Mozart is clearly gifted with God's music, and Salieri can't reconcile that God's instrument would be this immature, gross child. And so Salieri, in that moment, decides he's going to ruin Mozart's life. And so he says, hey, Stanzi, I'll definitely consider your husband if you come back here tonight. And she's like, oh, but I don't want to come back tonight. He's like, come back tonight. So she does. And that whole interaction is insane. It's incredibly done. Elizabeth Berridge, her face throughout the whole thing, how it unfolds, F. Murray Abraham's expressions, goodness gracious, it's so good. He is fantastic. It's a compelling take on religion and having a religious character, someone whose religious fervor turns to a different kind of fervor when he feels that his religious favor has not been earned by the deity he follows. Because ultimately, Salieri and his hatred of Mozart turns Salieri against God, because he thinks that by defeating Mozart, he can defeat God. But it's like, bro, you think you know more than God. That's your first mistake. And it's really compelling in that regard. I also want to talk about Tom Hulsey, who plays Mozart. Absolutely fantastic. He's the right blend of adorable and just insufferable because he's actually good at what he does. His height works to his advantage from what I read of Mozart, which is very brief. It sounds like that was a pretty accurate depiction of him to be, kind of on the short side, kind of on the weaselly side. I have to mention the laugh because I went into the movie and I'm like, there's no way the laugh is that annoying. It is. I don't know, at the same time, it wasn't overused. It was annoying. It had to be annoying, but very much like The Grudge's clicking sounds, it helped signal that the horror was descending for Salieri. The movie is kind of the epitome of seeing something so cute you have to crush it. Salieri cannot abide by someone as good and talented as Mozart existing at the same time. And so he has to just crush it because he can't abide by it. And this whole fantastical element to this requiem that Mozart's writing, and that the more he writes it, the sicker he becomes, and that he, it's killing him to write his own requiem. And it's so eerie. It's really neat in that regard. And I appreciate the way music is integrated. They don't hold your hand and explain all of the music terms. These are musical masters. They don't have to explain what any of this means because they understand what it means. And I appreciate that. We don't need to know everything. The drama of the scene is what matters. And so it's so refreshing to just have the movie go with it. I knew nothing about Mozart. I honestly don't need to know more about Mozart because that's not the drama of the story. And I think a lot of biopics forget that they don't have to be simply educational. They can be entertaining. And it was entertaining. I just personally didn't have an emotional connection to it. It's a film where I totally recognize it is so well done, so well crafted, so beautiful of a film. The costumes, the sets, the score is tremendous. Duh. But I just don't have an emotional connection to it. I don't see myself rewatching it again necessarily, just because I don't need to. It was a good experience. It's certainly fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, if you haven't taken a music history class, it is worth sitting down to watch once. It is 3 hours long, but it all felt necessary. I wasn't checking the time. I was prepared and invested the entire time. So it's an exceptionally well done film, well deserving of all the accolades that it has. It's very musical despite being a stage play and written as a stage play, and so I appreciate when movies can be about music without falling into musicals, and this is such a music-oriented piece. It's really cool. Tom Hulsey and F. Murray Abraham are so good. It's honestly worth the price of admission for F. Murray Abraham, I have to say. I don't know, it was really good. That's all I can say about it, really. This was neat. It was finally, it felt good to finally see it. To put it off for so long, and so just be like, you know what, forget it. We're going to watch Amadeus. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, we're out. That felt good. It feels good to finally watch a classic. This has been My Year in Movies. Thank you for watching.